Hello, hi, good evening, everybody present here. I welcome you all in the podcast, English Learners, the ultimate podcast for the language enthusiast. After a brief hiatus, we are back with a bang, folks. So, I welcome you all into this brand new event, which we have introduced and restarted podcast. Yes. So it's a new series brought by English learners and a new initiative for now. And we would be having two guests today in the evening. So all the audiences who are present here, I just hope that you would get something valuable from this evening and stay tuned and relax. Now I would like to introduce you to one and only the guest of mine for the evening, the first one, Ferozi, a wordsmith with the wealth of experience in English writing. She is the one who has lots of experience in English writing in various styles, as well as she can guide us with the techniques, tips, and tricks for the writing. So let's welcome her. I welcome you, Ferozi, in the session.
Thank you so much. I'm really ecstatic after listening to this introduction by you. Thank you.
Yeah. So, how do you feel being the first guest for the evening?
This is my first podcast and I am literally over the moon. I would be having fun sharing all the details, what I am having and what I have perceived over a period of time. So it would be having fun talking to you in this podcast.
Okay. Likewise, like right now, I'm so thrilled to know as well as a bit nervous. So, I would like if any mistake done from my side should be pardoned by the audience as well as by the guest. Okay. So, shall we start with our podcast? And with the first question, can you share your writing experience with our listeners?
Yeah, sure. Please go ahead. Okay, so my writing experience, it's a complete halcyon. Like my journey started from my childhood when I was in fifth standard. Somehow at that time I got command on my mother tongue and I started writing something related to fantasy, dramatic writing. For example, there were so many stories I wrote at that time in my mother tongue. I'm not talking about English right away. It was a time when I used to see different types of series on television, that was related to there was a child and he's having a watch. When he press it and he would be converted into an animal that would be so strong. And there were another series like a person or a child who was having a pen. Whatever he used to draw on the page, it come out as a reality. So these type of things I used to see on the television, and I have had my own imagination. So whenever I feel down and down in the dumps, I used to write different stories. So our mind is having imagination power. It don't know about reality and imagination. It happens whatever you are thinking, it can feel it and it will enjoy. So I started writing about different fantasies and I feel very relaxed at that time. I didn't know about that this is my hobby. But somehow it was my hobby because it was giving me aesthetic looks. So the time passed by. I became a bookish person, being indulged in different types of studies because I became the topper. So at that time, I studied about how to write essays. Like we all know that it is part and parcel to our academic career. So we have knowledge about how to write the essays. So I started writing essays from my seventh standard because at that time I had a bit command on English grammar. I had know about, like, I have the knowledge about tenses, etc. So I started writing essays. My teachers were consistent on that you have to root memorize all the essays and then you have to write, but I was obstinate that I have to write the stories or the essays that I have to write on my own, like the words would be mine and I used to use the quotations of my own. I used to create quotations. So this was what I started from my seventh standard. Although it was not that formal and it couldn't be appreciated that much because I was a student of seventh standard, but still it moves on. Then I went to my 10th standard, and at that time I learned about argumentative essays because I went for different competitions, and there my teachers used to give me content that I used to root memorize and cram, and then I used to go to the competition hall and wrote everything. So in this way I learned about how to create arguments. And then time goes on. I will tell you about my graduation time period. At that particular time, I started taking participation in different societies because I used to sit between the people who were very skillful. So, getting inspired by them, I started to be the part of different associations. For example, Step Ahead Welfare Society that was working for people, okay, and Life Care Foundation. It was totally free, and I used to write campaigns, essays that I was campaigning for the people. So, in this manner, I get to know about how to write a formal essay that could emotionally attract or evoke people towards me. And then a time came in my life when I was at the verge of death. So at that particular time, I went to a lot of symptoms. And after 1 or 2 months, when I recovered, I wrote my own autography. So, in this manner, I have written a lot. After that, I joined Telegram. I was the part of one of the groups of Telegram that was related to English. I wrote some contents related to YouTube videos, dialogues, etc. So that's all about my journey. Like I started my journey from fifth standard, and it is now going on as well.
Oh my God. I believe that that was detailed introduction with all the styles of writing you have introduced to us. But tell me this thing that many people always raise this question that how does writing, writing down anything or writing essays or campaigns or stories help them in learning English language, and specifically how can it help in their spoken language as a speaker?
Yeah, it's a very good question. I would like to answer it. And I want to eulogize that person who have asked this question. So you must know about one thing, that there is a common thing between two types of writing. Like there is a writing skill and the other skill is speaking skill. So there is one common thing between it, which is clarity of thought. Okay, if you are having a great clarity what you are going to speak, in that particular time you could be able to tell every nuance, details of the thing. And you could, if you are in a debate, you could be able to have arguments on it, so there would be a clarity. Okay, so if you are writing something, you are having a clarity, and if you are speaking something, you are having a clarity in your imagination. So this, if you are writing something, it is telling you how to be clear about speaking. Okay, the second thing I would suggest here, while you are writing, you are learning a lot of vocabularies. Okay, you are creating your own vocabulary bank that is related to you only. So while you start speaking, and if you are in a confabulation with a person, at that particular time you could be unconsciously using that vocabulary mind that you have learned from writing. Okay, the third thing I can mention here, while writing, we know about one thing, that our grammar should be best, right? If we are sitting in an examination hall, and we are writing an essay, the essay should be good grammar wise. There should be no solecism, right? So, in the same manner, if you are having a command on English grammar, you could be able to speak well as well. For example, I am telling you a story about the events happened in my past. So I am using those verbs that are related to past. So grammar plays very important role to make other people understand what we actually want to speak. So while writing, if you are writing a content very well, you are getting confidence because you are having a knowledge about it. So in the same manner, if the same content has been asked to you by a person, so at that particular time, you would be very confident at telling them the answer because you have written the whole story. So you're having command on it. You have command on that question. You get confidence from it. So I think that if you are having a good writing skill, you could be able to enhance your speaking skill as well. Yeah.
Indeed, true. Wonderful explanation, and I believe that the audience who's and especially those who are writing enthusiasts, they would be getting the hint that how writing helps you as a speaker, and how it is very important that it corrects some your grammatical mistakes and structures. So thank you so much for providing insight. But there is something which made me very curious. As you said, you have written campaigns. So what motivated you to write articles for awareness and campaigns?
Okay, to be very honest, I tell you one thing. During my post graduation, I learned about human behavior, that people are not what they show. They are having a persona. Their personality is different and their persona is completely different. They are showcasing themselves, and we are just seeing them by their persona, and we are unable to understand their personality. And just because of it, maybe many times we get ditched by the people. So it happened with me as well. One of my friend, she uh, she did something wrong in the past, so that triggered me to know about what is life, what is the realm of life, what's the purpose of life, what I'm doing in this world. So those questions were just revolving in my mind. So at that particular time, I just wanted peace, the peace that I can get from anywhere, the serenity, the placate behavior. So these were the things that I wanted at that particular time. So what I did at that time, started helping the people. You know, we are having two things in our body. One is our soul and second is our body. So we are doing a lot of things for our body. Like I'm doing skincare on a daily basis, and I want to maintain my weight, my skincare routines. I want to maintain it. But what about soul? I'm not thinking of it. And serenity, contentment, and ecstatic behavior, these these are the attributes of soul. If your soul is happy, you would feel very relaxed. So at that particular time, I thought that I'm not working well for the people who are deserving, because I belong to a rich family, alhamdulillah. So I thought that in my, I'm having a lot of money. Okay, so I should help those people who are not having that money. The people who are living in the slum areas, they are not able to go to the schools. Their parents are unable to pay the fee structure of their schools. They are unable to buy clothes, as well as the pencils and everything that is required for education. They are unable to pay for it, right? So I started something doing for it, because the Step Ahead Welfare Society were in another city, and I was living in Sargoda. And the community and the society was in Rawalpindi. So what I did, I started working online. So online, what I can do for them, I can create posters or I can write content for their magazines. So what I did, I get selected into the content writing team. So therefore, I started writing for them, and it gives me really very contentment and internal peace. Then I also joined another society that was working in Sargoda, in which I'm living, that was related to Life Care Foundation. It was regarding arranging the blood for the people who were in need, like thalassemia patient, the mother who was giving birth to the baby. So those people required the blood so much. So we started writing those articles so that people can relate with them. They can also feel that contentment that I was feeling at that time. So the only reason behind my content writing for campaigns, contentment of heart, and having something placate in my life. Yeah.
That's such an altruistic behavior of yours, where you are, trying to help people by any means, as you said, and you opt for online medium. In a modern era, it's very easy that people can utilize the resources well. I have a question here that how do you research and gather information for your these campaigns?
Okay. So, first of all, the people who are senior to me, they could tell me about the campaigns very well. They are into this work for many years. I have joined it earlier, so I started to ask different stories from the seniors, that how was your whole journey working in this society. So they share their stories, uh, how they play with the children, how they teach them, how the parents come to them and say them thanks. So it gives them another type of contentment. Okay, so these type of stories I have taken from them. The campaigns are all about that you have to write something that can relate and resonate to the emotion of other person, right? If he would get emotional in that particular way, he could be able to help us, and he would listen to us. If he become obstinate or stubborn that I am not going to help you, then my content would not work at all. So we need to write that content that can make other people emotional, and they can grab the attention of them. So therefore we used to write different stories, that how we have helped them, and how the students are working these days. So these information I have collected from the from seniors. Secondly, there is one another thing. There is a person who is very strong minded. Even if a person comes to him and he is abusing him, he is very calm at. But there is one thing: if a thing comes to his religion, so he will not be so calm. He would say something of it, right? Religion is a thing that is our weak point. So I have also added my religion into these campaigns, that if you do well for the people, your almighty would reward you with so many things. So these are the things that attract the attention of the people, because every person want rewards, and every person wants something new in their lives. So this type of content I used to write, describing intriguing events, as well as explanation of people's conditions, and religiously explain them, that helping other people, how could it will reward you. So these were the things that I started collecting, and I wrote in my campaigns and in my articles.
Okay, so that was wonderful. As you said that yes, emotions plays really crucial role, and if utilized well, especially in a writing, it's the mightiest weapon. I would like to take one question placed by one of the listener on YouTube. That what is your go-to strategy for overcoming writer's block and maintaining a consistent workflow?
Okay, it is related to writing, right? So
Yes.
if I am having writer's block, so what I do, I always change my environment. I go to that environment that is encouraging and giving me so much energy, because all I need in this world is serenity and complete calmness. So I go to the place where I can get calm, where I can get support, so that uh, I could be moved towards getting something new in my life. So changing environment is the one thing. Second, I always set small goals but achievable. I always think on that I have to learn the grammar. For example, while writing, must have a command on English. You must have a command on grammar, sentence structure. There are different types of sentence structure, like compound sentences, complex compound sentences. So you should have a command on it. And thirdly, you should have a command on punctuation marks, so that you can play with these all words to write your whole content. So in the same manner, I have set the goal that today, or in this week, I'm going to learn punctuation marks, and I will use these punctuation marks into my content writing, to make my content more insoluble to people. So in this manner, I achieve the goals and I always set small goals and I achieve it. And thirdly, I always seek guidance from my seniors. Because if I am a good writer today, there must be a writer who is having more knowledge than me, right? So I always search for those people who are having more knowledge to me. I never get jealous of them. I always seek new things from them. Like here in this EL, like English learners, I have one person who is having a very great writing style, and I learn most of the things from him. So in this manner, I make myself consistent by getting feedbacks from them, by showing them my content so that he can give me different feedbacks so that I can ameliorate myself more. And lastly, I would say that I focus on my progress, not over my perfection. You know, perfection is one thing that people mostly hype, that we need to be perfect. They need perfection in the content. They need perfection in persons, right? But perfection is the thing that is not achievable. We can do one thing, we can get close to the perfection. So in this manner, we should focus on ourselves, that we need to progress, like every second, every minute, every hour, every day, every month, every year, we need to be progressed. Okay, we shouldn't focus on perfection, we should focus on progressing, so that one day come when you could be close to the perfection. So this is what I do to make myself motivated.
Indeed, true. So there is something that I started writing a few days ago, or you could say it's been a week to be precise. And I believe that as I started writing, writing is not easy. You need to be consistent, you need to improve. So there will be many people in the audience who love to write either poetry, stories, or they might be into creative writing in different styles. So can you please share some tips with us that for the beginners, how could they start writing, and what are the common mistakes which beginners do, and how you can avoid, like how beginners can avoid those mistakes?
Yeah, I would love to share this. Like, I wanted this question because I wanted to speak on this. Like, this is the thing of my cup of tea. Like, I want to say one thing for the beginners: you must have a command on language. Like, I'm using this word over and over again, but you need to inculcate this thing in your mind. You could be able to present yourself well only when you are having a command on the language. Language means you must know about the grammar. You shouldn't do any solecism, and you must know about punctuation marks and everything that is in this language, so that your content look so formal, so professional, and people get enthralled by it, captivated by it. So you need to be enriched in your content, but but you need to write this content in a manner that it should look smooth. Okay, ethereal but smooth. So in this manner you have to write it. So must learn a language. You have a command on the language. Okay. Second thing, there are different types of writing, you know, different types of contents are there. In creative writing, you can write descriptive stories. There are some stories related to fantasy that is called as dramatic stories. There are different stories like there are different contents that are related to digital marketing. So there are different type of writing. So I am now telling about story writing. Okay, how to create something. You are creating something from your imagination, so must think about the title. For example, you are going to write a story that is related to fantasy. A dramatic things would be happen in that story. So you first must know about the title. Okay, and after searching the title, you must have brainstorming on it, that what I'm going to write, what should be the introduction, what should be the body, and how I will conclude it. There must be some glimpse of it in your mind. For example, I have written one story, I would share you in the chat section as well. uh, okay, then you have to look into it, that how I should start introduction. Like, the introduction should be somehow intriguing, like it is giving half sense, and then you can start it with a question as well. You can start your introduction with describing the character. the event. There could be different type of introduction, but the body should be giving nuanced details of everything you are going to write. Okay, and the end should be like, which is recapitulation of the whole thing you have written. So for beginners, I will must say, start writing just. Don't think that I cannot be able to write creative things and I'm not creative at all. You are creative, you have your own imaginative word, just use it. Yeah. Yeah, Shirley.
Oh my God. I believe that I would totally work on this thing. And yes, as you start writing, you enjoy the process. True. So I have this thing that, you know what? Every time when a person starts writing, they come to this phase where they are unable to generate the ideas. They're unable to think in a creative manner or from the same plot that they have designed over the period of time, or what there is there in the market. So can you please tell our listeners or the audiences that how they can develop this habit of thinking creatively out of the box, or especially in the fantasy story writing, where you need a different and very intriguing plot, right? That it should keep the listeners on hook, or readers on hook. So if you can shed a light on this.
Okay, so how should a person create uh, creative thinking, and how should a person write something from the imagination? That was the question. Okay, so I would say every person is having imaginative world. Your mind don't know about the reality. You are having an imaginative world, and on the other hand, there is a fantasy that you are just compelling your mind to think of. Okay, so in this manner, you just start writing. You need to take one topic and try to start writing on it. Whatever is happening in your mind, whatever is coming into your mind, you just write it down on the page. And after this, read it over and over again to ameliorate your words more and more. Okay, so creative writing is not a cup of tea. Okay, or it is not a piece of cake, I will say. So you have to look into it. It will take your time. Like storytelling and story writing, both are two different terms. Story writing is all about that you are creatively writing something, so it will require some time. You must you must reserve your 1 hour or 1.5 hour for writing. Okay, and after that you could be able to write something best. So just for, if there is a beginner, you must start writing and plot your ideas in the form of words onto your page, and start writing every nuanced detail of it, so that a reader could feel himself in that three-dimensional space. Okay, you are having three-dimensional space in your mind, and you have to express everything on the right on the page in that manner, so that a reader could embellished and unadorned form, he can grab everything that you are thinking in your mind. Okay.
Very impressive, truly. So, I would like to know that is there any favorite story of yours which you have read, or maybe I know everybody has the story which is favorite or close to their heart, which is written by either them or by somebody else. So, if you could tell our listeners about this thing, that what is one story or which story is close to your heart.
Your voice is breaking up. Can you please repeat it? The story that is close to my heart, right?
Yeah, that's right. Am I audible right now?
Yes, now you are completely
Yes.
audible. So there was a story that I recently written in the 7-day challenge of EL, that was related to a fog that was just amidst the ocean, and it was completely unrealistic, and it cannot be happened. It was completely fantasy. So I wrote the story. So should I send this in the chat section, or I speak it here? Shirley?
You can send it in the chat section.
Okay, I am sending this.
But I have one more question, Ferozi, and I believe this would
Yes.
be the question of all the listeners here, and especially to the people who have come across you in this wonderful platform. You have such a rich vocabulary collection, and the people admire your vocabulary as you also take vocabulary session. So, if you could tell people or all the enthusiastic writers that what is the one word could be comprehended in many ways in when you are writing and when you are using it in any story. So if you could tell that how to utilize the vocabulary when they are writing it in a better way
Okay.
so that it
So there
could
is,
be
okay,
impactful.
yeah. To start it with, my father always says that there is different ways to say the same thing. For example, I want to say that Shirley Lewis, you are a very good person. So I can also say I adore you. You are the person who is out of this world. You are the person everybody knows that you are amazing. So I have just uttered different words, like different lines, but they are conveying the same piece of word that I just wanted to say. Okay, so in the same manner, if I talk about vocabulary, so I always cram different vocabularies on a daily basis, and I use them until it is going to my subconscious mind. For example, today I have taken one session that was related to vocabulary. So those words were totally unknown to me. So today I have crammed them, and after that I have explained these all words in the chat section to the people, and after that I had a quiz on it. So now these all words are now in my subconscious mind. I will use them until I would be familiar with it. So while writing, what I do mostly, first of all, I write the title, that this would be the title of my story, and then I brainstorm that what I'm going to write in the passage. For example, the introduction would be describing this fact, and the body would be like this, giving the nuanced details of the things. Conclusion would be like this. So I always brainstorm about the thing that I am going to write, and after that I write some vocabularies that I need to use in my passage. Okay, so in this manner, I just extract these vocabularies and I write in my passages. So in this manner, because I want to learn them over and over again, so I always use the vocabularies that I am learning on a daily basis to my writings, as well as while I'm speaking with a person, I use them.
That's really fascinating. I believe that now you know, guys, that what's the secret of Ferozi's rich vocabulary collection. And if you want, you need to develop a habit of writing too, right? So that, as she said, your vocabulary, which is passive, would become active vocabulary, which you can use in daily life. But before coming to you, Firozi, I just want to tell each and every listener here who has been there from the starting or joined in the mid, you guys can tell us that how was your experience, listening to the podcast, and can give feedback. And also, one more thing which I want you guys to do is that you can just jot down that what you learned from the podcast, because this podcast has only one aim, that is to know more about English language and to get information from the people who has the expertise in that domain, right? So whatever you learn, you can just jot it down in the chat section. And I know that Firozi and I will definitely look into it. And yes, we will work on the feedbacks too. So coming to you, Firozi, OMG, I love listening to you and I want to listen to you more. But due to the time constraint, I cannot. But one thing which I have got, I get to know about you in just this brief time is that you are passionate about writing. And if you if you stick to one thing and if you work on this thing, you develop another thing, and that's your vocabulary and your English speaking. One more thing which I come across and I literally admire is your speaking, the way in a calm and positive manner you are answering each and every question with adding details. That's wonderful. So I just hope that your experience in my podcast was wonderful, because for me, listening to you is so pleasing that I cannot, I am, feeling that I should not end it. But yes, I need to do that. So at last, I just want to ask you that how is your experience being here? And if you could give me any feedback, I would love to hear it out.
You are a very good host. Your hosting skills are really different from other people, like way of communication, asking the questions, and after listening to the question, you are giving the feedbacks as well. So it is phenomenal, I would say. And it was a great pleasure for me to be in this podcast with you. Yeah, that's what I can say.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ferozi, for being here and accepting my request to be the guest. It was literally an honor to listen to you. And with this, I believe we are signing off and will come again. Okay, so you can just wait for a brief moment of time. Good evening, everybody, and here I am again, Sherliey Lewis, the host of this podcast, welcoming a wonderful and amazing person of English learner, Bhuvi. If you know her, you know her. She is the charm of this English learners, and people love to listen to her. They attend her sessions, even though, sometimes it's way too crowded, but still, we love to listen to her. So I warmly welcome you, Bhuvi, in this podcast, and thank you for agreeing to be the guest.
Oh, that's really sweet of you, Shirley. I'm so stoked to be on your podcast. Thank you so much.
How are you feeling being here in the podcast? This is Sherliey Lewis.
I feel really good. I should say that I'm truly delighted that this is your first podcast, and I was just listening to Ferozi, and she's so remarkable. I would say. I mean, age. I think she pretty much summed up whatever I wanted to say today. But yes, it was truly an honor, Shirley, to be in this podcast with such eloquent speaker like Ferozi.
Now coming to you, Bhuvi, like it's been, I believe, 1.5 years of you being in this English learners, and you started taking sessions and you stick to IELTS session. I every time see you, it's IELTS session, hands down. Okay, so can you please describe your journey being into the English learners and how you started taking IELTS session and what motivates you? Even though sometimes you yourself say that you are tired, still you are ready to take the session. Okay, so what motivates you to be to take that session every day?
Uh, okay, if I have to be really honest with you, Shirley, this past year, I distinctly remember I joined English Learner was last September, I think. Yes, when I was myself an IELTS aspirant, and I times in my session as well that I'm not a certified trainer, to be honest with you all, but yes, I have scored a good band score, at least I can say so. And one of the reasons why I achieved a good band score was due to English learners, I would say, because when I joined as an aspirant, there were so many hosts here, and I used to take part in IELTS session only, primarily in IELTS session. And at that time, they used to ask me certain questions, and I got hold of the Mucker PDF and everything, which I had no clue about before. You see, my IELTS journey, I was self-taught during my preparation, so I had no clue about the kind of resource materials available online and stuff. And people were so good-hearted here. They told me once they started listening to me, the host, I would say, they suggested that you should have a look at these questions. These are time again being asked in IELTS exams, right? So, and over time I practiced, and I think I took way less time in preparing, though. I think 1 or 2 months, I would say, and then I just took the exam right away, and I got my result as well. Something that I'm contemplating I shouldn't have done earlier, but because I haven't still migrated abroad. So that is because of my PhD degree. I need to get my degree as well, right? So I had no clue. I just wanted to take the exam at that moment, and I just took it. And that's how my journey started in English Learner. I'm not a certified trainer at all. I don't think that I'm eligible enough to be a host. I thought there's some sort of for handling sessions here. And then he said, no, as long as you're fine and you're able to handle people here, that's totally fine. You can just take one session and see how it goes. And that's how my journey started in English Learners. And there's no looking back since then, I guess. Yes, I did take a break during my thesis and stuff because it was extremely arduous for me at that point of time. But my heart really wanted to, it wanted to come back and just meet my regular people. And fortunately, many of them are not here. I think it's just like how seasons change. You just get accustomed to certain people, and then after a certain point of time, they're no longer there. But then it's so bittersweet. You meet new people again. So I would say English Learners, for me, is a journey that is extremely hard. I learn a lot as well. However, these days, because of my time constraint, I'm not able to invest a lot of time other than my own session timings. So yes, I hope that explains it.
Oh God. Okay. And people love to listen to you. They are always, feel that there is a positive vibes when you speak. Every time you're there, the way you boost people, the way you try to uplift them, the way you, give constructive feedback, that's something which makes you really unique. Even though there are so many instructors, so many hosts, still people love to listen to you. On this note, I have a question that how do you design your session every time whenever you are there in your session? How do you come up with changes, some changes that you saw something, you observe something in your session, and next day you are back again with the session, and even more interesting, you make it even more engaging. So how do you do that? What are the following things you have done to make your session even more interesting and engaging? As a similar host, I would love to know about this thing.
All right. So there's no conscious effort that goes into hosting my sessions. If I have to be really honest with you, Shirley, whatever I read that week or whatever that's being told to me, right, by my superiors at my university, or maybe some life excerpts, I would say, which I tend to go back on and think about or reflect about. I just try to just take those as my inspiration for that particular session. However, each session has its own, each day is different, right? Each session, I'm in a different mood altogether, I would say. Some days I might have a hectic schedule at work and I might be really exhausted after my day's work. And when I hit home, all I want to do is just hit the sack. But then I remember Wednesdays and Thursdays, I have dedicated myself to taking sessions, right? So at that point, if something gives me motivation on that particular day, I just think about that and I just talk about it in my sessions. And most of the times, if at all, you would probably have listened to my sessions. Most of the times, what happens, it might be something that I chanced upon on social media or something that I might be reading at the moment. And that's exactly what I tell my listeners or my participants as well. So it's nothing like I'm making an effort to hosting sessions. It's just that however I'm feeling, if I'm feeling really ebullient, that reflects on my session. If I'm feeling quite drained, I just let people know about that too. And then my regular participants, they're quite understanding about the entire scenario. And then they say that it's okay, just take rest, you go to bed early. That's the kind of people we have here. They do understand by your behavior, your thought process, or how you portray or how you talk, right, to people in the session. So especially my regular participants, I would say only they will be able to understand through the tonality of my voice how I'm sounding. Yes, so it's not something I put so much effort into my sessions at all. But yes, one thing that I've made up my mind, this thing, when I've started hosting sessions, that if at all I'm going to be hosting sessions, I just want at least one of my regular participants to fall in love with the language in itself. I know most of the people who attend my session, because it's an IELTS session, most of them are some sort of interviews or government exams. They try to take part in my sessions just to answer the prompt of my questions. However, I just love when at least one person out there could just fall in love with the language, just for the just how extremely passionate I am about English. At least one person, and I know that I have this one person. I'd maybe say that eventually or something, but yes, who shares a similar interest like me that I've observed from the start of my journey here. But yes, it's been fun. Fun is the way or the word I would say that to describe me hosting sessions. I just love to have fun. And yes, it's also an act of service that I do. Um, just my little bit to help people around here. That's it.
You might have come across lots of IELTS aspirants, right? Those who want to clear the examination with a desirable bands, or they have a desirable goal to enter into any university. So, what are the common mistakes the beginners do or the aspirants do while preparing for this examination?
All right. The main thing that I've observed here is that people tend to get distracted. That is something that I've noticed time and again with those people who are even regularly preparing for the exam. They tend to lose focus. I think that happens because IELTS exam is something that happens when you're either working, right? You have a full-time job or you're either pursuing some degree in your college, right? So I think somewhere they tend to lose focus. And when they come here on my sessions and they try to ask me even in my DM this question that how to stay focused, or the thing is you need to have that goal oriented spirit. If at all you want to migrate abroad, yes, IELTS is the main key criteria, I would say, to pursue a higher degree in college abroad, or if at all you want to get a PR, right? You do need IELTS exam for that. You need to crack that. Somewhere I think one thing that I've noticed mainly is that in online platforms such as English learners or even in any other group for that matter, if they just join, they tend to other things take priority for them. I think that maybe new friendships tend to entice them or tantalize them for that matter. And then what happens? They try to lose focus. And one more thing I would say is that practicing with the wrong people. You can't practice with the wrong people when you know that. I have to be really honest here. When you know that they are not your level in English, if you practice with someone who's a beginner, probably the chance will be that their habits will influence you as well, and over time you won't be able to get your desired score. So the sole objective of IELTS is to get your desired band score, and a lot of times it is very good, reputable universities. You need a band score of at least 7. Some universities will take you for even a band score of 6 to 6.5. That's totally dependent on the kind of university that you're applying. But I would strongly suggest if at all you need a band score of 7 or above, you need to practice with someone who's really, really proficient in English, or even at their advanced level in English, to be able to get that score. Because what happens in IELTS, there are four modules: reading, listening, and speaking and writing, right? So each module has its own significance. So practice is the key here, and not to lose focus is another vital thing, I would say.
I see. Yep, indeed. Participants, I believe, all those who are trying to, give this examination, or who are into the process or in the mid of preparation for this examination, they could mark the mistakes Bhuvi said and could avoid it. Now comes the different segment, Bhuvi. That is English speaking. Okay, for non-aspirants, non-IELTS aspirants, I should say. So I hope it's not boring for you, right?
For me, not at all. I just hope that I don't bore the other people who are listening here.
No ways. I believe that if you are somebody who is into learning, learning can be done only when you are listening to something informative, right? So I believe this would be something people would love to know, especially those who are trying very hard to learn English language and to be a fluent speaker. So here comes the first question: that do you think online English speaking helps you to excel in offline English speaking as well?
Yes, of course. I do believe it helps a great deal, I would say, Shirley, because these days there are different online platforms that teaches English, right? Be it spoken English or English in its entirety, I would say. There are free platforms like English Learners, which conducts a lot of free sessions for people, and they can take value from these sessions. On the other hand, there are a lot of paid platforms as well, where you can just pay and get the job done. And of course, it will be quite an expense, I would say. However, then people who there are in those, I think there are different platforms. If I have to name a few, like Preply and other stuff, right? I don't know. Haven't been on those platforms, but yes, I have heard of it. And people do take paid classes to interact with native speakers to get their spoken English level from a beginner level to an advanced level as well. But I haven't personally been on any such platforms. When you can utilize a lot of free resources that are available online, why do you need to pay and get something to learn, right? So we do live in digital era, and everything is just available. You just go to YouTube. There are tons of videos, and you come here on English Learners. There are tons of sessions happening, and wonderful hosting different sessions. So I don't think. But yes, if I have to really talk about offline mode of learning, it depends upon from which age you start learning English. For me, I started right from my childhood. So my journey, you can't compare one person's journey to another person's journey. It's entirely different, right? So if at all you're starting the journey of learning English, you're quite consistent. You're making it quite a habit when you're in your higher secondary or when you start your college, right? So your journey will probably be different, but that also requires a lot of sacrifice, I would say. You have to invest in a lot of hours mastering that language, and it also depends upon your interest as well. Surely, I feel that if a person is truly fervid about a language, then they will invest more time. It's just akin to learning a musical instrument or being really someone who's so much into other hobbies or interest, I would say. If at all you do have this passion, or you do have this willingness to learn, right, that alacrity to learn something, you will obviously be gravitated to learning that particular art form or something of that sort, right? So English is similar to that. As long as you're interested, you will learn it. If you don't have interest, of course, you won't spend too much time doing that activity, I would say. Yeah.
How can a beginner start his speaking journey? What are the things they need to keep in their mind, and how exactly to start their journey as English, in vocal English, or I should say spoken English?
Okay, first and foremost thing that a lot of people, even if they say it out loud, yet they do not practice it, is that you need to give that ample amount of time. Yes, it is time consuming, I would say, practicing English. And if at all you need to elevate yourself from one level to another level, then you need to have that patience in you. You need to have perseverance, that endurance in you, that tolerance in you to learn each day, right? So what happens, this question, I have received it in my DM as well, that how to learn English, how to speak like you, or how to this. I have received it many times, and for them I say that have the art of patience in you, cultivate that patience in you, and have the tenacity. When you have tenacity, surely I believe that you can achieve anything. Of course, it would require some time, but then time and which doesn't require time and effort, right? Everything requires in this world. Nothing comes served to you on a silver platter at the end of the day. So I would say be consistent in your journey of learning and have that humility. One thing that I've noticed, that even some beginner speakers, they tend to think that if at all they master a few words or something, they tend to think that they need to, they're very self-assuring in that way. Sometimes you need to come down that high horse a little and know where you actually stand in order to be able to have that growth mindset in you. If a person thinks that they know it all, they will never be able to progress in their journey of learning. That is something that I even tell to my students, because you see, I'm also a full-time researcher, right? So if at all my juniors, right, I tell them, if an experiment doesn't go well, what do? They need to do it, repeat it again from the start. So it is always better to be scrupulous right from the beginning stage, so that over time they will master it perfectly, the art of perfection. So what I should say is that to people who are beginning to learn this language, I would say the true knowledge exists in knowing that you know nothing. When you look at life with a sense of humility and you just put your head down and work diligently, that's when you will learn to pick up any art. Even it's not necessarily learning a new language, it's also about how you look at life in general, right? You need to have that sense of humility, and also you need to have a mindful mind of intellectual curiosity. I would say have that inquisitive mindset in you, because what happens when you have the inquisitive mindset, you will be very, very eager to learn everything. But that doesn't mean that you need to get pompous or you need to get presumptuous once you reach a stage in life of learning, because then you'll start becoming stagnant, and that's when you'll stop growing. So always you need to have a slice of a humble pie, and you need to keep on having that sense in learning, because what we've observed from great leaders around the world is that have an inquisitive mindset, and when you are having that intellectual capability or that curiosity and that perspicacity in you, that's when you grow in life and you learn a lot. And that is apt for English language as well, I would say.
You once said that there are many speakers in this platform itself, those who have advanced from beginner level to intermediate B1 or B2 level, right? But there are very less advanced speakers, especially advanced speakers. Okay, so many people stuck in that phase of B1 and B2 intermediate level speakers. But how can we upgrade the level of our speaking to C1 and C2? What are the things we need to do, and what are the dimensions we need to specifically focus to upgrade our language?
Oh, that's an interesting question, Shirley. I have already mentioned this at the beginning of the podcast that I'm no certified trainer. I only speak through my own personal experience. If I have to talk about my experience, I have not only been an IELTS aspirant previously, I have taken TOEFL as well. So from these both exams and also CAE exam that I've taken as well, I'll just speak from that perspective. For me, I feel that a lot of people here, after a certain point of time, they're just stuck in the same level, be it in B1 level or B2 level. What happens is that, why that happens is that they tend to do the same thing over and over again. Now, I think Ferozi also mentioned this before about active learning, right? Putting yourself out there and involving yourself in learning. So what happens? There are two different forms of learning, the fundamentals of learning, right, Shirley? One is active learning, another one is passive learning. Passive learning is through shows, media, consuming whatever different types of media that we are doing these days, English podcast, or listening to English podcast, or watching English series, movies, songs, whatnot, right? Everything is available these days. But what happens when we watch a series or a show? We just watch it. We don't observe it too much, right? There might be different words that the native speaker might talk. The other day, I was just watching Bridgerton show, and that happens during a particular. It's a time period drama, right? That happens at a different time period altogether. But then there are few words that are quite fascinating. That were quite fascinating for me, such as rambunctious and everything. So I've just noted. I just took a note of that word, and then you just search that meaning, and then you form a sentence, and then you try to interact with people using that word. This is active learning. Passive learning is when you just stop, you don't do anything, you just listen to the song, you just watch the movie, and that's it. Then you go on doing your own activity. You just forget the words, you forget the sentences, lines. And a lot of these English movies and series have a lot of idiomatic expressions which people don't necessarily grab onto. So something that I'd suggest you is that, suggest to all the listeners out here, is that try to get into the art of passive learning as well. Something that catches your eye or catches your attention, just like Ferozi said, I believe, just note down that word and try practicing it as well in your daily speaking. Another thing is that in biology, we call this term osmosis, where everything tends to kind of liquid or water molecules, they tend to pass through from a different phase to a different phase through a permeable membrane, right? So what happens in English, if you compare to a certain, for example, if I have to name a person or something from English learners, right, Shirley or Emeko or Patricia or even Ferozi here or anybody here, right? So certain people would have learned that language over a period of time. For example, they might be a graduate in English literature, or they might have been, they might have studied in a convent, or they might have studied in a very good school, or they might have very good resources from an early age. But you shouldn't compare necessarily. For them, it might have come with less effort, right? For certain people, it requires a lot of effort. So according to the kind of level that you are, you need to practice more and more and more. Practice is the key, I would say, and over time you will probably master it. Just you need to be very, very consistent in your practice, and that's how you can get from a B2 to an advanced level, I would say.
How they can overcome that anxiety before speaking, and they can develop this confidence in their speaking.
Shirley, for a lot of things in life, some can have a stroke of luck, or some can have that easy route to life, to climb up the ladder. But for one thing, I would say there's no easy route, and for that is learning. Um, if at all you want to be confident in anything, you need to have a thorough knowledge about that. You can fake confidence when you lack that knowledge, but then it will be quite evident to the other person listening to you, or the spectators listening to you, right? So what I would suggest is that if you're equipped with the right knowledge, you will have that confidence. There is no easy or no roundabout way to that. It is a very straight cut and very there's only one formula, I would say, for confidence. You will radiate, or you will ooze that confidence if you're equipped with the necessary knowledge. If you're not equipped with knowledge, I'm sorry to say that you won't have that confidence no matter what stage in life you reach. But then what happens is that if you don't have the confidence, that is because you are lacking in knowledge, but you are working towards that knowledge. You are trying to upgrade yourself with utmost earnestness in life. Then surely at some point in life, you will gain that confidence, you will gain that knowledge, and you will gain the admiration and adulation of people, of course.
So, what are the books you would like to recommend them? And especially to those who are into fantasies, or I should say dramatic style, as well as some autobiographies, whatsoever is your genre, favorite genre, you could just give us some recommendations so that we can jot it down.
All right. This is interesting, Shirley, because um, when you talk about books, it automatically brings a smile on my face, and I'm literally beaming from year to year here, because that's how much I love books. I feel that reading books gives one such a vivid sense of imagination, and no matter what you're going through in your life, right? Be it an adverse phase in your life, a lot of turbulence or something around of that sort. But if you're opening up a book, then you're immediately transported into a different world. It also opens up your mental horizon, and it completely captivates you to a different, altogether different. I think that you just go into this rabbit hole of reading, and you just live with those characters, because I'm someone who live when I read books. That is same as reading for me. So if at all I have to talk about my favorite genre, I would say that romantic fantasy is my favorite cup of tea, I would say. But then to each their own, each one have their own personal preference to reading books, right? Some might prefer inspirational novels or motivational books. Some might prefer short stories. For beginners, yes, of course, for beginners, you should start with basics. That is something, short story, I would say, or a compilation of short stories, collection of short stories. Recently, I stumbled upon this wonderful author. She's a Nobel Prize laureate, Alice Munro, I would say, Dear Life. It is a collection of short stories. Absolutely, it'll be a favorite for beginners. They can just read those collection and have a lot of fun reading it. If at all you are into reading novels like me, one novel that I'm reading at the moment, Shirley, it is a fantasy novel, by the way, and I just love reading this novel. Because this author, I have read one of her stories before, but then this one is new. That is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. It's a novel by V. Schwab, and it's a fantasy novel about immortality, how a woman gets immortality. And it's also a time period novel, which I just love reading. That is one of my favorite genre. And another one of the novels that is in my wish list, I haven't really read it yet, but I heard it is a great find. It is City of Nightbirds. It's a book by Joohee Kim, and if I have to talk about other novels, I think one novel which is really close to my heart, I would say, in this year, which I read in this year, 2024, and that is The Strength in Our Scars. It's by Bianca Sparsino. It generally talks about the deep levels of human resiliency and how humans can recuperate from adversity. So it's such a heartbreaking novel. I would say it is a lot of, it's not exactly, it's a very good book, a very good find, I would say, one that I chanced upon. And yes, if I have to speak about books, there won't be an end to this day, but yes, there are lots of books in my collection, and one that I've read as well. But if at all you're a beginner, one book I would strongly suggest you. It's not a novel. It's not a fantasy. It is a real story. I know each and every one of you who has read I'm sorry, who has probably read or come across this name about World War II. You know the Diary of a Little Girl by Annie Frank. It was, I think, I read it when I was 10 years old or 11 years old. I'm not able to get it exactly, but yes, that was extremely life changing for me reading that. It is a very small book about the true events documented by this little girl called Annie Frank. Just get hold of the book and you will know how much of a bliss we are living in at the moment, because our life was extremely chaotic at that point of time. So yes, these are some of the books at the moment. So yes.
Honestly, I've written down all the recommendation you gave me and every listeners here. And to be very honest, the only thing we are focusing here on this platform is that you need to learn for yourself. You need to upgrade yourself each and every day. And learning books is one of the very good way to uh, come into this, English language. Because I believe that if you are gaining knowledge, then language comes with the knowledge, right? So thank you so much, ma'am, for giving us so many recommendations. There are two types of speech. One is emotional and powerful, right? So, do you think that all the powerful speakers, those who speak with high, high voice, and their voice is very firm. So, do you think that it is necessary to add emotions or to fluctuate your voice here and there, or you could stick to your own dimension of your voice? I hope you got it. What I wanted to ask you.
Yes, surely I got it. If a speech has to be emotionally, or in the sense if it has to be really impactful for the audience, then I do believe that one needs to have that inflection in their voice. Their tone need to change. They need to have that mindfulness when it comes to uttering a speech. You can't speak in your everyday voice with people with an audience who are in front of whom you're just saying a speech, right? Say, for example, if at all I'm going to a conference, an international conference, it's a different ball game altogether. Now I'm sitting in the comfort of my home, I'm interacting with you, Shirley, in a very relaxed way, right? But when you are in an auditorium, you are standing in a podium and you're addressing the spectators or the listeners out there, probably in my area, or even if it's a debate competition, right, you'd probably be addressing a lot of people who are far more intellectual than you are, right? So they know the drill, they know everything in and out about the topic and everything that you're speaking about, right? So what happens, of course, you will be equipped with the right knowledge. You would have probably done all that research for that particular topic. One thing that can be an added advantage is the way how you address the topic, and therein comes the way you talk. And the tonality plays all the difference. I would say a person normally talks in a monotone, or the person talks in a very rehearsed way, the people or the audience will be able to catch your pulse, and they will be able to know that you have memorized something and you're talking. Say, for example, if I'm going and talking with a piece of paper, it shows the lack of confidence that the person has or the speaker has. If I'm going without a piece of paper, I'm just going standing in front of the audience, I'm just showing all hand gestures, I'm just looking straight in the eye of the person, the chief guest, and I'm just addressing him with utmost respect and talking as if I know that I have the world of knowledge around me, about me, and just talking about that with utmost conviction, automatically the spectators or the audience will be able to catch the pulse. Even here, in English learners, I think I have listened to a few debates previously, very few, but yes, I have listened. And sometimes when the speaker speaks, it is quite evident that they are reading speech, right? It's very evident. The monotone is very evident. You can't but if someone is talking from the heart, that is also equally evident. So if at all offline you are going to a place, for example, I'm attending a conference in IIT, I'm talking in front of so many people out there, and I can't do this. You can't have a piece of paper and you can't talk, right? So first thing I would say, research, do proper research, and don't carry anything, piece of paper or anything, when you're addressing a speech that shows the lack of confidence in you. And third, I would say, if at all online debates or whatever speech competition or rhetorical competitions being conducted here, I would say, when you're talking, your voice is the only thing that the people can listen to. They can't see your face here, they can't see your actions or your gestures, or they can't make eye contact with you. Then how will you captivate the audience? Just through your voice. And for that, You need to have that inflection, that intonation in your voice to be able to talk in a way that's completely transforming the listeners who are listening. They should think, wow, she or he is so good in what they talk or how they speak, right? So that's the kind of impression that you should leave for the audience and for the guest as well, chief guest as well.
Like, I like to deliver speeches, but in a powerful manner. And yeah, their emotions, especially those soft emotions, I should say, are the lacking points. And I don't focus on it solemnly because I feel that whatever I say, it should be firm enough and direct. That is, and you literally gave the piece of advice which I needed. So I hope that it was a fun segment for you. And I mean to be in this podcast. It is the first podcast and it's a try, I should say. I was trying to experiment with the way of learning, and it's a very fun podcast, but it's very difficult to execute. And I'm trying hard to do that. If you could give me a feedback on it, that what I could improve, I would really be glad.
Shirley, you're doing awesome. Really. One thing that I've noted, Shirley, is that when you suggested me to be a guest on your show, you made sure that I'm extremely comfortable. You said that the first thing that you told me is that I'm just going to ask you everything related to English questions, communication, English communication. So that is one thing that is really, really necessary for being a host of a podcast, is that you make the guest extremely comfortable in their own skin. That is something that you did. And also, as I was listening to the other guest as well, the podcast entirely revolved around English communication. So that is something that I really, really admired, that you stuck to the core element of this podcast, and you only asked questions that are relatable to each and every guest. That is, in this case, this is your first podcast, of course, and in this case with Ferozi and me. So yes, you are doing great, and I hope that you have a lot more wonderful guests on your podcast every week. Thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure, Shirley, to be on your podcast.
I will add some more things next time to make it even more better. Thank you so much for the words, kind words you shared. And I believe that all the people here, as a listeners, those who were listening for a long time, would have got something for them which they can add in their English speaking to upgrade their level of language. Thank you so much for being here and taking your time out.